Hi, welcome to the FilmCrop channel. Today I'm going to tell you about a fantastic thriller from 1995 called 12 Monkeys. Please support me with a like and a comment. That way you can help the channel grow. Spoilers ahead. Watch out and take care.
Monkey.
Future. 5 billion people will die from a deadly virus in 1997. The survivors will leave the surface of the planet and live underground while animals rule above. From time to time, people put on protective suits and collect samples of insects from the surface to test them for the virus. One such person is James Cole. He is sentenced to 25 years for disobeying the authorities. Cole has the same dream all the time. An airport. A child watches as a man is shot and falls. A blonde woman runs after him and screams. After another foray outside to collect samples, he is given the opportunity to go back in time to 1996 and find information about the army of the 12 Monkeys in exchange for amnesty for him. But by mistake, Cole is sent back to 1990 and is sent to a mental institution because he suddenly shows up in town naked, starts screaming about viruses, and beats up 2 policemen. His psychiatrist, Catherine Riley, thinks she has met him before, but what he says seems to her to be the usual ravings of a madman. While in the asylum, Cole meets Jeffrey Goins, an animal rights activist. He is also the son of a famous virologist. When Cole appears before the hospital board, including Riley, he asks if he can make one phone call to contact the scientists of his time who could pick him up. The call is answered by a random woman with many children and she knows nothing about any scientists. Jeffrey tries to help him escape by staging a riot. He gives him the key to a locked door in the hospital. However, Cole is quickly caught and placed in isolation. When Riley and her boss, Dr. Fletcher, enter the room to check on Cole, they find that he has disappeared. He has been returned by scientists in the present. They question Cole about what is going on. He tells the scientists that he was sent to the wrong year, placed in a treatment facility and drugged. Then he is given a second chance to complete his mission and is sent to the wrong place again, World War I. Cole is wounded in the leg. As he crawls through the trenches, naked and in pain, he notices his friend Jose just as sent back in time as he was. Jose is wounded and is being carried on a stretcher. Before he can talk to him, Cole is suddenly transported to another time. Arriving in 1996, Cole arrives at a place where Dr. Riley tells him about a certain soldier who claimed to be from the future. The doctor calls his illness the Cassandra complex. A girl who had clairvoyance and could see the future but could not change it. Cole guards the girl outside the car and kidnaps Dr. Riley. The girl thinks he is just a mere mugger and asks to take her bag, but Cole only wants her. But she guesses from conversation that this is the same James Cole who escaped from a locked cell 6 years ago. Together they drive to Philadelphia. James asks her to turn on the radio and cries from the songs. He loves 20th century music. Cole sticks his head out the window and breathes the air he has missed so much. Stopping at a motel, Cole remembers that he has seen her in his dreams all along, but in the dream she is a blonde. The television broadcasts about the kidnapping of Dr. Riley. They suspect Cole, of course. They go to investigate the man's leads. The radio reports a missing boy who has fallen into a well. Cole says he was worried about him as a child, but it turns out he was just hiding in a barn, and it all turned out to be a bad joke. Along the way, they come across signs of the 12 Monkeys. Riley gets a chance to close the car door and drive away from the madman, but something inside her still has a little faith in the man. Amidst the clouds of steam from the sewer manhole, they encounter a tramp who tells Cole that he has transmitters in his teeth, and it is through them that the scientists are tracking him. The hobo himself has had all of his teeth removed with sensors. They walk into some place that reminds Cole of a 12 Monkeys base, but it turns out to be a crazy marginal abandoned building where they are attacked by bandits. Cole gets a little crafty and quickly dispatches the villains. On his way out of the building, one of the street prophets tells him that Cole is one of them. Later, Cole and Riley manage to find the old store, the picture of which the scientists showed him in the present. There they learn that Jeffrey Goins, with whom he was in the asylum, has come out and works for his father. It was Jeffrey's psycho who formed the army of the 12 Monkeys. The organization is dedicated to protecting the rights of animals and freeing them from cruel experiments. Members of the group claim that they cut ties with Jeffrey because he became too unpredictable, too radical, and went to work for their father, whom they consider their enemy. Catherine and Cole go to Jeffrey's father's mansion. When they arrive, Riley extracts a bullet from his leg, which Cole took during a botched dispatch. Cole locks it in the trunk of the car and leaves it in the woods. In the midst of a fundraising dinner, he meets Jeffrey. He tells him that it was Cole who gave him the idea for a deadly virus that would wipe out part of humanity. But he doesn't remember it, he was drugged. Thus, it turns out that Cole is partly to blame for the disaster. He escapes the guards from the mansion, and frees Riley from the trunk. While he reasons that he wants to stay in this time with nature, enjoying life, the doctor signals the approaching police, who have been looking for them for a long time. Cole screams that he adores this world and all the creatures that inhabit it. He can't believe he made it all up, as the doctor claims. But when she turns around, she finds that Cole has disappeared again. At the police, she tells the same story. The police found a mutilated corpse and are afraid it was her. The police officer is about to pin the charges on Cole, but the girl defends him, mentioning that the bandits attacked them themselves and that Cole, on the contrary, saved her life. She tries to explain that Cole is mentally ill and should not be treated that way. Cole wakes up surrounded by doctors who say he will be pardoned and he will be normal. They say he'll be fine, and he's done as they agreed. Our hero cries and says they can't exist, they are just a figment of his sick head. The woman changes her face, picks up a huge syringe and sends James off to a long sleep. She goes to her acquaintance and tells him that the boy's situation is an indication that he really knew something. Riley begins to believe him too much. Cole wakes up on the same bed and hears someone's voice reminding him of who he wishes he could be, reminding him of nature, birds, the sky and her. Dr. Riley gets a phone call and is told that forensics show that the bullet that was in Cole's leg could have been fired no later than 1920. Riley checks the pictures in his little investigation and one of them shows the wounded Jose lying on a stretcher and Cole lying in a foxhole. Dr. Riley soon becomes convinced that Cole knows something after all. His predictions of the outcome of even minor events are surprisingly true. Cole, meanwhile, is heading for another sortie that time. The scientists are trying to figure out if he really wants to help them or is he just addicted to that world? Cole tricks them and says he wants to complete his mission. The scientists doubt his adequacy, but agree nonetheless. In the present tense, Riley calls Dr. Goins Sr. and talks about the threat from his son, but the latter doesn't see fit to talk to her about safety, much less his son. Maybe his son really doesn't mean any harm. Dr. Peters joins him in his reasoning and smirks about how he's been to her lecture and thinks she's a victim of her own Cassandra complex theory. Cole is lastly tested by scientists about what he knows about the virus and is sent back in time. She becomes convinced that the army of the 12 monkeys is indeed a threat to the world and begins searching for Cole to convince him to take up his cause again. Riley investigates the evidence Cole was collecting and heads to the same Philadelphia store where the army was, but the guys themselves are quiet inside, afraid of getting themselves in trouble again. A tramp who has had his teeth removed approaches her and the girl asks the man to help her find Cole, but he has already forgotten him. She begins writing messages on the walls for Cole, deciding at least that way to contact him from the future. And then he suddenly appears in the crowd. Cole is firmly convinced that he is indeed mentally ill, as Riley has convinced him. He intends to turn himself into the authorities. They switch places. Cole raises his hands to surrender and is spotted by the policeman following them. Along the way, Cole says he has already seen the graffiti that Riley drew. A conflict breaks out in the army of 12 monkeys, as Dr. Riley knows about them from somewhere. Jeffrey assumes that his brains have been scanned and a model of his brain created and so they know all his thoughts ahead of time. Together they go to the nearest cheap motel to hide out. There Riley tries to find out the truth from Cole, about all the disappearances and the bullet removed from his leg from World War I. Cole thinks he's crazy, that he made it all up himself, and that what happened to him, he doesn't remember it. Riley wants to figure it all out and save people. Cole wants to forget about everything and stay Riley. Riley reminds Cole of a call he made in 1990 from a mental hospital, but then a woman of many children picked up the phone. Now this could be the lair of an army of 12 monkeys. They are interrupted by a pimp who thinks Cole Riley is a prostitute and wants to take advantage of her. A fight ensues, resulting in the hotel residents calling the police. Cole removes his teeth, as advised by a tramp in the underpass. Riley decides to call the number Cole remembers to see if they are crazy and no army of 12 monkeys exists. After calling, Riley is convinced that it's just a laundromat and she just left a message on her voicemail. Speaking of the message, Cole picks up on her monologue. He knew about the message, Cole has listened to it in the future. So the army exists. They are interrupted by the passing police, and to get away, they go into a store to buy clothes and then change at a movie theater afterwards. They head to the airport. On the way, they learn that Jeffrey and his supporters have carried out their plans. They didn't release the deadly virus, kidnap Jeffrey's father, and put him in a zoo pen. They did, however, release all the zoo animals onto the streets of Philadelphia. At the airport, Cole calls the same number and leaves a voicemail message saying that the army of the 12 monkeys had nothing to do with the crash. Shortly thereafter, Jose shows up and approaches him with orders to carry out his mission and hands him a revolver. Jose makes it clear that Riley will be killed if he does not listen to him. At this time, Riley recognizes Dr. Peters, the man who worked with Jeffrey's father in the laboratory. He was obsessed with the apocalypse. Peters is screened at the airport and manages to convince security that his biological samples are harmless. Riley tells Cole this, and he realizes that this is what his mission is all about. To kill Peters. He pulls out a gun and goes after him, but on the way he is killed by the police. All this happens in front of a young child. This is James Cole himself as a child. That's how he kept having the same dream. He saw his own death as a child. Catherine looks at the boy and smiles through her tears. Peters successfully walks onto the plane and sits down next to a woman, one of the scientists in the present tense, who was sending Cole to this time. She introduces herself. My last name is Jones, I'm in insurance.